In my last video, I documented the process I used to learn how to use assembly code to call some undocumented ROM routines to do disk I/O. But then at the very end of the video, I had this ominous message. That's because I made it all the way through the shooting and some of the editing before I realized, nope, I forgot something. So in this video, we're going to talk about what I did wrong. If you'd like to try to figure out what I missed, here are a series of hints. Hint number 1. This basic program is fine, but there's something in here I didn't do in assembly language. Pause if you want to look and ruminate. Hint number 2. The assembly language code I showed you kind of works fine. You saw it. But if I were to make a change, it would not work fine. The change is to, after finishing printing all of the bytes from one file, loop up and do another one. So I changed this to have a main loop that loops, and it reads through a series of file infos, each one with a different name. These are those file infos. So it would read test ASM, print all the bytes, read test2.txt, print all the bytes, and so on. Why would making this change cause an error? And for your final hint, let's look at the error. That's the first file. Hit a key. Boom! Ayo! Okay, done with the hints. Ayo, already open. When I went to open the second file, it's like, no, you already have a file open. 'Cause I didn't close. That's the bug. It didn't close. I didn't close. In my defense, I wasn't reminded I had to close. In the Disk Basic Unraveled book, if you look at all of the ROM routines that they chose to list out, none of these close the file. Why wouldn't they show it? Well, the Color Basic Unraveled does show it. Close a file, A42D. Deeper mystery. Why would Color Basic Unraveled tell you how to close a disk file and Disk Basic Unraveled wouldn't tell you how to close a disk file? The answer, RAM vector. So the close file routine originates in Color Basic and it's got a RAM vector at the top. This is the Color Basic close file handler. Very first thing it does is it jumps to that RAM vector. If you haven't seen this video on RAM vectors, it might be helpful to watch that first so you understand better what's about to come. So in Color Basic, the close file routine actually does do something, but it does something with cassette files. So it checks the devnum and it assumes the devnum is going to be a negative number because that indicates the cassette tape device. So I think it's -1 means cassette tape. And the positive numbers, 1 through 15, indicate disk files. And they knew they were going to do some stuff, so they used a RAM vector for future extensibility. And if you do this jump, it goes into Extended Basic, which I think all it does is it fixes a bug from Color Basic that was already fixed in a later Color Basic ROM. But I guess if you had Extended Basic with the old Color Basic ROM, it would fix the bug for you, but it doesn't really add any functionality. But Disk Basic does add its own vector. And it starts here and it handles what needs to be done to close the file. You should be careful about what you look at here though, because I was tempted to do something really sneaky, which would have been a bad idea. They use the FCB type offset inside the file control block as a little indicator of whether the file is open or closed. And basically, if that is 0, then the file is closed and they get out of there and do nothing. Otherwise, they just clear it to 0. And if this is as far as you read, you would think, oh, I don't need to go through all this RAM vector silliness. All I need to do is just clear the FCB type and all will be fine. But of course, that would be foolish. If you follow these branches around, eventually something does happen. If it was a file that was open for writing to the file, then it might have to do some final flushing to the disk. I actually haven't looked at that code, I don't know, but I think that's a possibility at least. And in either case, it does need to make changes to the file allocation table, which I've done no research into. So I shouldn't be too sneaky if I don't need to. All I really need to do is call the color basic close file routine. It will vector into the disk basic for me. So the updated code adds an equate for close, and this goes into the color basic ROM. I'm not going to take any shortcuts. And then before I branch up to the very top of main again, I will just load devnum with 1, so it knows I'm talking about device number 1, and I just call color basics close, and it should handle everything else for me. So let's run that and see what happens. So there's my first file. I hit a key, and it opens and then prints out the second file, and you can see it just starts right after the first file was done. And then it opens and reads the third file, and then the fourth file, and then the fifth file, and now it's done. No error.